Hi everyone, welcome to my next video. I received a very distraught and emotional comment the other day, and I felt deep empathy for this man who is suffering great loss in his life. And he actually asked me if I would maybe create a video and talk a little bit about what I think of how I deal with grief and loss and sadness, and did I have any ideas or suggestions. And I'm very glad, not for his circumstances, but for that he asked me, because I have a wealth of trauma in my background, and I also have a wealth of strength in my background. And I might not even be able to include it in this one video. It may become a series, who knows? If all of you have more questions or want me to go more in depth, perhaps that's my purpose, to talk about my suffering and what I did to persevere. Now I'm going to take you back to when I was 3 years old, and this again will be revealed in my book, soon to be published. And I cannot explain how I knew this, but I'm a very intuitive, sensitive soul, and I knew without a doubt that there was a greater something. And this greater something was a part of me, and I was a part of it, yet we were separate. And I was here for a purpose, but it was not my purpose to understand that purpose. And that although I was an important being, in the same token, I was not all that important simultaneously. And if that's confusing to you, please let me know, because it's difficult to explain. Now, as I grew older, I encountered extreme difficulty, yet that sense of this greater something never left me. No, it does not come from any religious teachings. It does not come from any books. It does not come from anyone else. It comes from the very authentic, deepest, original part of me that was me before I was me. And that is a whole nother topic, which you will read in my book soon. And I welcome questions about that. Now, I always had a sense that I would not be understood by others, primarily because when I did lightly touch on some of my beliefs, I was met with, deer in the headlights kind of stuff. And I, for many years, thought there was something horribly wrong with me. So I kept it to myself. But again, back to loss and what this gentleman expressed in his comments, that he sadly lost 3 women in his life who he loved very, very, very much. And his question is, why? Why do these tragic things happen, and why me? And that made me realize that I never questioned why me. I never considered that I deserved any different. And by that I mean not by being abused, but by experiencing loss. Because to me, loss offset the balance between joy and gratitude and feeling the loss of what I no longer had. And to me, it was a natural balance and the order of things. Where did all this come from? I don't know, but I have a theory, and that's for another video, which is actually fascinating. Now, I've also investigated just a bit about quantum physics, and I wish I was smarter to understand it, because I find it absolutely fascinating, and it reveals a lot of the secrets to what we're searching for. And that is, who are we? What are we? And why has everything been created? Now, I'm not sure if quantum physics answers the why, but it answers the how. And the how to me is that everything is energy. Everything that never existed in this third dimension existed before in another. And I firmly believe that. Now, if that is true, which I believe, that means everything that existed in the third dimension and no longer exists in the third dimension will continue to exist in another. Now, it's scientific fact that there are other dimensions. It's argued how many there are, but it's very curious to me, and it answers my sense of order and things, that I sense either other dimensions, other realms, or higher energy. And since we're all energetic beings, and we have different frequencies and different output and different ways of sensing this energy, some of us are able to perceive it while others are not. And I hope that makes sense. And for some reason, I'm able to. Now, back to the question, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do we suffer? Why do we experience deep loss and pain? Why did I never question it throughout my life for almost 70 years, and I still don't? I can only share my own personal views, and that is that it is not necessary to question why, nor is it my purpose to question why, because the why is known by this greater something, and all we need to do is be grateful for what we do have. And yes, we mourn the loss of those we've loved, and that is a logging truck going somewhere in a distant dirt road. They are quite loud. But I never questioned the why, but I was captured by the wonder of loss and captured by the balance that nature maintains. And if you really think about it, happiness is not static. It is fluid. And it is a temporary emotion that exists in time for us to embrace and for us to remember and for us to lose. So for us to question why almost makes us assume that we deserve to be elevated to that higher being to understand. And for whatever reason, being trapped in this third dimension, we are not able to do that. But here's something that I've learned throughout my life and by my many, many paranormal experiences, is that there is a why. And we will learn that why when we leave this third dimension into the higher one. How do I know this? Because I have experienced people who have passed on, who have connected to me in a most beautiful way and shown me the whys of my past. And that is also in my book, There's a Something. I ordered an author's copy. It's coming next week, and I need to make sure I have no typos or spelling errors before I release it. And that will explain a lot. It will also explain why I don't follow any particular religion. And please take this as my only personal opinion, because people search for why. And they search outside themselves for the why. And certain religions try to provide that why. Yet to me they fall short, because nothing is proven in fact or in science unless you have experienced the why yourself. And I believe that's why we're here, so that we can find that why without looking for it, but experiencing it and taking it with us to that higher realm. And so for the gentleman who has suffered, please know that there is a why. And perhaps I should tell you that I have certainly suffered and lost very, very special um, things in my life. And I still carry that pain with me. Yet I have chosen to accept that one day it will all be reconciled in this higher plane, and that I am humbled that I have been subjected to suffering. Because what that suffering has done, it has humbled me and made me more appreciative of what I still have. And I hope that's comforting in some way. And why is there suffering in the world? I believe it's to humble us and to create that balance between suffering and joy. And if you look at nature, there is a balance to everything. There is a balance to what we think is time, because what we think of as time is past, present, and future. But I have experienced things that have proven that wrong, and that is in my book also. So we are trapped in this third dimension with our limited understanding, which causes us to question why. But for some reason, I'm able to sense beyond this realm and be humbled by how limited we are. And I have achieved that by experiencing so many, oh my gosh, these flies, so many incredibly experiences that I consider a gift. And I continue to be humbled by what I don't know, and continue to be humbled by knowing that everything is temporary in this third dimension. But in other dimensions, there is eternity. And we take what we have achieved in this dimension and we take it with us in eternity. How do I know? I've experienced it. And that again is in my book. I'll tell you something in closing that is the last chapter in my book, and I actually just recently experienced this. I experienced and was subjected to a very bitter, hateful, resentful, narcissistic mother. Yet I never hated her. I never spoke back to her. Well, once I did, and I got a slap across my face. But deep down, I felt sorry for her, because I understood that her hate came from confusion, from insecurity, and from envy. Now, my mother eventually passed away at the age of 92 without ever apologizing to me, without ever acknowledging the pain that she created for me, or any attempt to try to comfort me and tell me how badly she felt, because the truth of the matter was, she didn't. Yet I still told her I loved her, and I left that nursing home for the last time and never saw her again. Now, this is just one of the many stories that I've experienced, which I have written about in my book. But I'm going to tell you this to prove that there is a beyond. I am now almost 70 years old, and last year, out here in this remote cabin in the woods, I was suddenly awoken by my mother calling my name. Well, she passed away 6 years ago. Was it a dream? No, because my dogs, who always sleep on my bed, jumped up, started barking, and ran to the door to go outside. Now I live on 20 acres. Many of my neighbors are remote. They're very quiet. Uh, they keep to themselves like I do. And no, I don't know anybody who would stand out in the woods in the middle of the night and call my name. Now, I recognized my mother's voice, but her voice was a plaintive, Barbara, Barbara, a sad, wistful, calling out to me. And that tone told me everything I needed to know. That she was sorry, that she was in a place where she did not want to be, and she needed something from me. Well, being half asleep, I just called my dogs back inside and I went back to sleep thinking, well, I don't know. I'm just going to let that go. And I forgot about it. Well, about a week later, the same thing happened. The same one word calling my name from out in the woods. Barbara, a plaintive, calling out to me for help. A miserable, helpless cry for me. Clearly my mother was calling me. So I lay there in bed, and I did not want to have anything to do with my mother anymore after years of her abuse. I was now free, and I wanted to remain free. So I told my mother to go away and leave me alone. Well, she didn't, because 3 weeks later, it happened one more time. I heard the voice, Barbara, from the same place, far out in the woods, unmistakably calling me, wistful, desperate, sad, and I knew what she needed from me. And what she needed from me was my forgiveness. Well, my dogs jumped off my bed, started barking. I let them outside, and I stood out there in the dark, and I said, Mom, I forgive you. Please be at peace. Please know that I'm okay and that I understand. And please find your eternity in peace. And I went back to bed, and it's been a year, and I have not heard her call to me since. And I know I never will again. Now, I believe that my mother carried what she did in her life into that eternity. And for whatever way it happened, her awareness became such that she was able to reconcile what she had done. Now, please don't preach religion to me. I respect whatever it is you follow and whatever it is you believe. But I know that because of this experience and that many others, is that life is a heck of a lot more than what we understand in this realm. And for some reason, I'm able to sense it. So again, back to loss and grief and sadness in this lifetime. Please know that it is temporary and that we can learn forgiveness, we can learn humility, and we can learn through pain to treasure the happiness that we did have in the past and those memories and what we still do have in the present, or what we believe is the present. So I kind of talked a little bit longer than I thought, but I have so much more to say about this topic. I'm very, very passionate about it. I never question why about anything, because I know that there is a why and that one day I will understand, but it's not my place to know right now. My place is to be humbled and to appreciate what I have. And yes, I struggle with grief. I had a very tragic loss about 10 years ago. It is still very painful to think about. It is something that I regret, and it is something that I cannot change. Yet, there are many beautiful things that happened to me throughout my life. And it is a balance. And I will continue to appreciate all that I have and be humbled and look forward to where it is that I will be after I leave this third dimension. So please feel free to ask me questions. Again, I have um, very passionate feelings about this topic, and again, very strong emotions. And I'm very glad that you asked me these questions. And I hope that you can find comfort in my words and know that you don't have to know why, but just know that there is a why. And one day, when it's time, you will know. Thanks so much, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. And if you'd like me to talk more about this, I would absolutely love to. I hope you're all having a great day. It is 91 degrees here in Maine. And I think I'm going to go to the beach and go swimming. So take care.